Hello guys, and welcome to trying to make my favorite card work in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta. This is me, hello, I'm Subsonic. Nice to meet you too. I'll shake your hand. For the cards, we've got the Fiendsmith Engraver here. I'll pull up an image on camera, or on editing rather. And I like him, he's got cool art, I like the lore of him going to hell and using demons as material for his weapons. And with the whole equip things and his tools and forms, it's reflected in the gameplay, which is super cool. He used to be like meta dominating and terrifying, but I didn't play back then, so now it's just a fair, cool little engine that's good in scuffed game states. And my very favorite card out of all the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Abawaku, the Lightless Shadow. I got her in a random store in... Dude, I don't even know the city. It's some German city I was traveling to go to locals. I didn't expect to find her. I always wanted to get her IRL, so when I started I saw her in like a combo tutorial. It was like, damn bro, this is the coolest card ever. So I set out on a mission to find her locally without ordering her online. It took a while, but randomly I was at a store and I saw her in the display for secret rare cards. I'm like, oh damn, it's Abawaku, I need to buy her. I look at the price tag and I'm like, oh fucking hell bro, why is it so expensive? And then, yeah, I did drop the $50 for her and another card I don't have here right now, which was also there. And I could have gotten them online for a bit cheaper. Anyways, I got them, used the excuse, well I need to spend the 50 anyways. It's a stupid excuse. I have the card now, and I'm gonna use her IRL with this deck, and I'm gonna test it online to see if it's going to be good. And you're gonna see that in the video now. Have fun guys, and remember to like and subscribe, because this took a lot of effort to make actually. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Live Twin Fiendsmith video I'm making here. I've decided to start this off with a little presentation on the deck after the nice introduction I made earlier. I'm not that great at editing, but I am really good at PowerPoints, so this should make this a lot more professional, easy, I don't know what to call it. Anyways, Live Twin Fiendsmith. You have this guy, the Fiendsmith Engraver, he's kind of like Dante from Devil May Cry, he's a really cool guy. Then you have these girls, they're VTubers and jewel thieves. It's a pretty goofy combination, but it ends up working out really well, gameplay wise. You use the Fiendsmith and Live Twin engines, which are both very compact, meaning that you have a lot of space for different cards in your deck, because they all work off single cards. So for example, you draw him, and then he does his whole thing alone, or you draw one of those girls and they do their thing alone. Then you have this simple game plan, but you have hand traps behind the end board. If these things sound confusing to you, I'll explain it in a bit. And the Fiendsmith engine is really good when I throw a hand trap and he throws, and then we both can't do anything. Then you can go into the Fiendsmith stuff, and it's really good at those game states specifically. So, now for some basics of deck composition. In green we have these starters. These are your cards that get your play started, and you typically want to draw one going first and two different ones going second, so you can play through some interruptions. In this deck specifically, they're not interchangeable necessarily. You have good Live Twin cards, which you want to start with. And then you have the Fiendsmith cards besides those, which you want to have going second, but not necessarily going first. Red ones, these are engine requirements. These are cards you need for your plays to function, but you don't want to draw because you search them during the combo. You have the trap cards and this guy, which you search with these guys. These two can start the Fiendsmith plays, but they need the normal summon, and you want to normal summon these girls here. And they're generally just gonna appear in the combo. You're gonna use this to summon her, and then him to get this. So if you draw them,
it doesn't necessarily kill your plays, but it's pointless because you would get them anyway, so they're just dead cards. We get the non-engine here. These are your defensive and offensive cards, which insulate your plays from your opponent's interactions, so the top 5 here mostly, and then these bottom 2 a little bit. And then the main thing is you just interrupt your opponent with them. This deck can play a lot, so almost half the deck is hand traps. Hand traps are these monsters or this trap card which you can activate while it's not your turn from your hand, so they function like trap cards but they're in the hand. These do several things. This bottom suite here negates cards, or monsters specifically. These negate specific effects. These are to negate opponent's hand traps. And these, you're gonna hear more of them later. The Mulcharmies are some of the most powerful cards in the game, and they are the only way to reliably force decks to play less than they could, because they let you, every time your opponent summons from a different location, draw a card. The problems of the deck. I've chosen 3 images here which represent it pretty well. Let's start from the left. Raigeki Break is an easy to understand trap card which says discard 1 card to target a card in the field and destroy it. Nobody plays this card, but these kinds of effects that just target something I have and destroy them, they just cook this deck. If you start with a Life Twin card, normal summon it, you resolve the effect, and then he's okay, on-res and destroys it, I'm cooked. Unless I draw a specific thing I don't play multiple copies of, I'm just dead. So I just can't extend further. So this is bad. This is one weakness, and it's hard to prevent decks from setting up cards. There's cards like this in Better that people play now, and you can't negate it with hand traps because they just set it and you can't stop them from getting to it. The second problem, I've gotten the brick meme here. Bricking means you draw no play. And then this guy, he is called Mulcharmy Fuwalos, or I like to call it Fuwawa, like this VTuber I think. Anyways, this card cooks this deck. Every deck main decks it because it's the best card in the game, and this gets destroyed by it. So I'm playing a lot of cards that counter it, but it doesn't really work every time because you obviously have to draw them. And then the other problem, this deck uses hand traps, but the problem is hand traps, or as you call it non-engine in general, is currently weaker than engine cards. You don't need to know what these cards do, but this is a classic combination of cards which start the play of a certain meta deck, and these 2 cards beat 2 of the best hand traps every time. And it's not that they just still get to play, it's that you have to hand trap both of these cards, and then they put them together and make an Xyz monster, and then they do the whole thing anyways, and you're basically down 2 cards for no result. So this is why hand traps are kind of rough in the meta. But there's a ray of hope. The Forbidden and Limited list, which you don't need to understand the ban cards, but this list did a few things on a macro level. Some of the best decks that just like to ignore hand traps, they got hit hard, so they are not really as good at ignoring hand traps anymore. And a new set that comes out brings in a lot of new cards that allow decks to be more powerful, but in exchange this sacrifices the average resilience of hands, and this means that now I can run this deck with 20 hand traps and people aren't prepared for it anymore. It's a theory anyways, but we're gonna see in testing if it works out. And then just a little presentation of what this deck does. the standard end board, you have this, my favorite card, Abawaku, which can destroy a card on the field. We have Evil Twin Troubled Sunny, which can revive 2 evil twins, which then also have effects. And we have this guy, DDD Wave Hiking Caesar, who can negate 2 summon effects. This is a good amount of interruptions, but it's not enough. Here, this Caesar can sometimes just beat decks on his own, and if he gets, for example, destroyed by a spell that flips him face down, then suddenly I'm on very little. These two, they help clean up what he can't stop, but in general, this is not enough. If they have any out for him, out means a card that beats him without just needing to play through it, my end board is basically reduced to the power level of 2014 maybe. So let's get to the next part. I have the new deck list here, which attempts to solve some of the deck's problems. First of all, for the bricking issue. Yeah, it got worse, but that it is how it is. Then secondly, for the ceiling issue, that means the end board isn't strong enough. I choose to add these 2 cards. They lead you to having this guy in the graveyard, this trap set on your field, and this guy, plus this and this in the graveyard. And that solves several things. First of all, this guy allows me to link summon, so use one of my opponent's monsters as material during their turn to summon him, or her rather, and she then can banish a card on the field and then banish another monster on the field and herself. So that's 2 additional strong interruptions. Then, because I go through him and they have some effects to generate more material, I don't have to choose between this guy and this guy, I can get both of them. And with how you do the combo, instead of having him on the field at the end, you have him and this in the graveyard at the end, and then you can use her effect during the opponent's turn to summon this, which can summon him. And that is important because there are certain cards like Dark Hole, the card that just destroys all monsters on the field. The fact that your end board is, in the way you call it, layered, so you have some on the field and some in the graveyard, that means if the opponent uses Dark Hole, instead of losing everything, you only lose a little bit of what you can do. And thirdly, for going second, here is my funny little side deck tech area. This guy is Evil Santa. You can search him with your Fiendsmith engine because he is, as you can see, a light fiend, so he's searchable. And you can summon him by on the opponent's board by tributing one of their monsters, which convert extra Fiendsmith engine in hand into removal. These 2 are utility cards I missed very hard when I was playing this new version. But since you don't need the Unchained stuff going second, what I usually do is I just take these out and put these 2 in. She can resurrect any fiend from the graveyard, which is useful for getting her or this guy and him back into rotation. And he is a Giga Chad. You usually lose after summoning him, but he's a good last-ditch effort. And then, just to side these out, I have some negate traps. They basically do the same thing, you can't respond to them, and you just say no to anything the opponent does. Now, for the test games. In the first match here of the video, we are up against Blue Eyes White Dragon, deck utilizing classic monster. Dual Charm Brillia doesn't affect my deck much, so I choose to let it resolve. However, he doesn't allow me to resolve my Sunny Snitch, which leaves me with no starters. A downside of playing 20 hand traps is that sometimes you just draw 4 and then one of these kills your turn. No big deal, no big deal, we should still be fine here. He summons the Ephemeral, can't let that resolve, that's a negate. He summons this, also choose to not let this add the field spell, since it could give him an additional normal summon. And I call here that he doesn't have the one card that extends without the normal summon. However, he reveals that he is the better player and drew it anyways. Then he gets wishes. Yeah, that would have been very nice to Ash. However, let's see if we can keep him off a blue eyes here. He makes a fatal mistake and summons Jet Dragon, which is almost but not quite Blue Eyes White Dragon, which doesn't allow him to summon his Maiden. And you're gonna see now, he thinks he's safe with the Roar now that I used Ash, but I reveal that I am actually the better player and I drew the Ghost Bell, leaving him on no Blue Eyes White Dragon and thus unable to use his deck. I top deck a Kissikill Frost, which does get it done, and I just start playing here. It's gonna take a while, but as soon as I summon... Nope, not quite here. Then here, when I summon Requiem and go for effect, he decides to surrender, or as you say in TCG, you scoop, meaning picking up your cards, because he knows, yeah, I am dead here, I can't do anything. Good game. Our next match is up against Dracotail Magistus, and unfortunately I did not draw many hand traps. This is bad, because this is a deck you really want to hand trap. All of these fusion spells resolving are so bad for me. This deck works by the materials of Fusion Summon getting advantage by being used as materials, and he is just going off now, doing his thing, and I'm looking at my hand thinking, damn, if this was a different deck maybe, but here, with an engine hand, no. I choose to Bell the Secretarian Dragon here to keep him off the Fallen in White. I top deck another Ghost Bell, just good. And I have some plays here. I choose to not allow that to resolve, to keep him off a Cartesia. The Ash Blossom here is usually terrible, but at this point it hurts. Okay, Star Scourge, that's it for the Hive Twin Engine. Now onto the Fiendsmith half of the deck. There's a Flame, but I choose to not allow the... I won't surrender here. I have still stuff I can do. The Requiem Engraver, equip it. This is what the Fiendsmith is good for. It's just an engine that can play through a lot. You can just keep going to a certain degree. And right here, I make a misplay that causes me to lose the game. Because I don't read. This fat ass has an effect. If two or more monsters are sent at the same time to the graveyard, while he's in the graveyard, you can summon them. What I should have done here is not equip the Requiem and not do the play that I'm about to do here. I choose to send this. Also, if anything, I should have sent this because he has a higher attack. Now he summons him. This is bad for me because he has more attack than him, meaning I cannot fully clear the field here. So now I go activate him and try to get rid of this guy, which doesn't work out. And now I'm in a tough spot, because now he has his follow-up, he gets her back, and a draw. And from here I need to pray he doesn't get anything good. And he goes to the battle phase here, because this guy, called Typhon, prevents his monsters from over 3000 attack from activating their effects. And thus he needs to get rid of him first before being able to summon a second Arthur Lion to use his effects. This has the benefit of letting me survive here, but as I see the fine mana in hand, I realize that it's probably moot, especially once he adds back Zorua. Since I do have some things to do, I choose to play it out, but you are going to see in a second that this is just terrible. He summons the Crowley here, doesn't fuse, and he goes into this guy, and I've played Magistus, I read this guy, and then there's a line. Your opponent cannot activate the effects at once with the same card type as a Magistus monster card in your spell trap zone. I see a link, and I look at my extra deck, which is basically all link monsters to get my play started, and I realize that this is probably the end. From this position, I make some plays, do some stuff because he doesn't have a lot of interruptions. He summons this to go into to fusion summon into this guy who is a monster negate. And here I make another critical mistake, because I again don't read. Well, I forgot that he can destroy a card basically. From here I should have used the effect of Fiendsmith Drag to fuse like I do now, and not trigger the unsummon effect of Fiendsmith Lacrima. Because Fiendsmith Lacrima has the cool ability that it reduces the attack of opponent's monsters by 600, which just lets me attack over the Zoroa. However, I trigger the effect, he can chain him to negate and destroy, and as you see, that is the end for this thing. Because otherwise I would have attacked over him in battle, and then I'd have been able to use this Kissikill deal here and the other Fiendsmith cards to clear the rest of the field and set up enough interaction to stop his top decks. But this also shows that this deck can do some stuff with Engine, and you don't need to just hand trap your opponent to death completely. Our third match for the day is up against the Radiant Typhoon deck. Our opponent here interestingly choosing to play a hand trap variant. Usually Ash Blossom on starters is bad, but Ash Blossom on Lila is very dangerous because it just instantly ends my turn, unless I open exactly this card, in which case this Ash is wasted now. He should have used it on the Fiendsmith cards instead, because now I can go into the Fiendsmith line of the deck very easily. Now he hits the Evil Twin Lila with a Ghost Bell, which negates the Graveyard Summon effect, and effectively cuts me off of the Evil Twin half of my deck, which does cost me 2 interruptions and some draws. However, we can keep going, because I get to draw a card thanks to the effect of this deal here. And here we can do the Fiendsmith stuff because we drew some of it. The Unchained, the Requiem, the Necropole, get another draw of her. Search the trap card with the Fiendsmith. Usually you'd use it for the graveyard effect, but it's a powerful on-field effect as well. And from here we can do the Unchained Fiendsmith part of the deck pretty easily. Confuse the sequence away, summon the sequence, and then shuffle a few back for our boss monster Desiree. Agnan Day, we can go into a Baoku here, interestingly, to pitch the trap. And now even though he had 2 hand traps and is now on a 4-card hand, I'm just going to pause to show you how fucking annoying this deck is. He had 2 hand traps, and he could have used them better, that it would have done more, but with the extenders I drew, he invested 2 hand cards to make it so that I get 1 draw less and 1 destruction effect less, which is a very bad trade for him. From here, we can negate both monsters, but because I'm playing the good version of the deck, I still have this and this to keep going even though my field is negated. Here he can summon the Phonics, which is a powerful monster, but sadly not powerful into an on-field only negates with one hand card. So he summons the Eldam, I negate it, he goes into the Link 2, and I reveal the Infinite Impermanence, after which he surrenders. GG. Up next we have another match against Radiant Typhoon, this time the meta variant, so it's going to be a best of 3 right here. However, the deck is weak to hand traps, and sometimes just negating the Eldams stops their turn. I focus against the deck always of keeping them off the monster searches, because that makes it hard for them to establish anything. Here he falls for the bait quite nicely, because continuous spells get, in quotes, negated if MST destroys them. So I knew he was obviously going to do that. From here, I start with the Fiendsmith part of the deck because it doesn't commit the normal summon. I summon the Electrina from hand, and he reveals the Forbidden Droplet, which is questionable. But then as I see him reveal the Fualas, I realize that he just wants to be able to draw. Ashit and Heat reveals the second one, which would have been devastating, but also explains why he bricked. However, luckily for me, this deck is on board breakers, meaning cards like Forbidden Droplet that are, importantly, not cards like Ash Blossom and Hand Traps, meaning the following play isn't stupid. Here to choose to take the challenge to say, screw you, you don't have anything, I am just going to play into it and kill you. And the Life Twin cards are very good at this, because I can just go for 3 for feats with Lacrima. I 2 for Lacrima because I didn't have Engraver. Go to Trouble Sunny, and this is game. Even though it doesn't look like it, I can go here and then use the effect of Trouble Sunny in the metal phase to summon 2, and for some BM destroy my Lacrima to kill him with the burn damage. GG. Let's go game 2. This game is basically over the second it starts because their deck cannot play into Cerulean. Then I see him set form like, oh damn. So he probably was bricked anyways. I draw. Kissical Frost is very good here, because it's not redundant and it helps me push into whatever he's got going on there. So I started going for Engraver. Now I just pray that there's no weird roll and Lockbird shenanigans. So far so good. Lurry, discard Lurry, specialty Lurry. Then I see Fall in the Virtuous, and I'm like, okay, I can keep going, that's no big deal. I can use Engraver's effect to special, make Requiem for Lacrima, then her effect to send one, and he reveals Forbidden Crown, which is an insane card that has a lot of effects, but basically just freezes her, so she's negated and can't be used for anything. Then I can normal summon you, and he reveals Spellbound, which is one of the goofiest cards I've seen, but apparently it's good. As you can see here, it works. Just says everything on the field can't be used as material for stuff. I look at this, look at my hand, look at my extra deck, I'm thinking, god damn. Then I equip it and see the thing glowing, I'm like, oh, yeah, this doesn't count as a fusion summon, this is just sending to the graveyard, so I summon her to be able to draw off my Ghost Bell, if it comes to that. I set my Infinite Impermanence in the same column to possibly negate this, but I know it's probably moot since it's likely to be in Mystical Space Typhoon. He adds a Fall in the Virtuous in the end phase. 3 hand cards against 1 piece of interaction and 1 draw is scary and not where you want to be at. It goes for the Eldam, which is already looking quite rough. For the Virtuous to destroy, which allows the Crocea in hand to summon. Luckily, I have the Ghost Bell to negate this. And then I have this Fiendsmith Lacrima. And here is the real value of the engine at the trap. Even though he negated everything, I can still use it on his turn to send this trap card, which is then going to allow me to send the fusion monster. And even though he cleans up the board here, my 1 piece of interaction against their 1 other play checks it, so you can't keep the Link monster on field. Go for Lacrima, let's try this. And he uses Forbidden Crown, again, to protect it from being destroyed, but also negating it. Then he's going to set 1, and again, following the Virtuous with this dragon in the grave that is putting in so much work in this scuffed game state. But can it compete with the Fiendsmith engine? I rip an incredible card off the top here in Lila, which is probably the best card I could have drawn here. I use the effect, he chains for the Virtuous, and I'm just thinking, oh you sweet summer child, you don't know how these cards work. The Life Twins, the Cyber small ones, they special summon each other like a duo if you don't control other cards. I use her effect to special her, but now she's alone on the field, so watch this. The effect triggers and I special summon another one. And from this position he is cooked. This is an on-field negate if it's chained directly to Mystical Space Typhoon. So all I need to do now is to go into a Link 2, which is a quick effect I can now activate at any time, which means he is now left on 0 interaction. And from here it's just going through the motions. For Fiendsmith, for Tract, for Lurie again. Here he wants to negate the Tract, but I can chain this to summon and draw, and now he's left on nothing against pretty much already lethal on board. The last game of the video is against one of the best decks in the format, Vanquish Soul Canine. And as you can see, we have in quotes bricked. We drew hand traps and undesirable draws. So let's see what we can salvage here. Fiendsmith is kind of good at playing with these bricks, because you can worst case normal summon this, but you never want to draw it usually. So we can go here. Lacrima. Just at this point I don't know what he's on, so I'm just praying please don't have any interruptions so I can end on something. Go for 2, go for sequence, and he reveals K9 11 Izuna, which is a fabled card that can do turn 0 plays, meaning it can be summoned on my turn. And what it does is it sends a guy from grave who then summons himself, and then they both can do an Xyz summon as a quick effect to make an interruption before their turn has even started. However, I have the Ash Blossom here, which handily checks this Izuna. From this position on, I'm feeling pretty good. He's used 1 card, and I can just go into the Desiree, summon it with Item Day and equipable things to make it big as fuck and have it untargetable due to this effect. Then I'm going to set the Paradise as a board wipe and the Infinite Permanence and see what he draws. He begins with a Typhon, which makes me think that his deck did what it usually does, which is bricking. Because Canine Vanquish Soul needs many different attributes and things in hand and multiple card combos, and sometimes you just draw all the cards that don't do anything by themselves. He probably had 1 play that was contested by the known negation of this card, so he wants to out it and hope I can't follow up, because I don't have any cards in grave, which would be smart if not for the Infinite Impermanence I've set right there, which he shouldn't have played into most likely. From this position he chooses to surrender due to knowing that, well, now next turn I'm going to die. Let's go game 2. This game I go second, and I'm drawing a hand heavy on spot negation. I can negate this, but he has the extender, which usually means he does the whole thing anyways. I'm saying, oh man, I can't target it. And then he does the unthinkable, he detaches Lupus for cost. It's like, what the hell, are you dumb? Does he have something, does he know something I don't? So I just go negate, and this is, and here he could have used Ripper to negate it and get the search, but he doesn't even negate it, so I'm thinking, huh, what is he doing? Well, apparently he felt like the hand effect negate and whatever he has as a set card is more valuable than resolving his place and comboing. However, as I look at my grip, I'm thinking, this could be difficult. Then he reveals that there can be only one, and I realize, oh, I am screwed. This is a floodgate, that means each player can only control one monster of each type, and I can't play Fiendsmith under it. And I can't even play Life Twin under it. So I need to make SP Little Knight to banish it, but from here I am up. I've extended way too far into plays that don't give me advantage, and I'm forced to pass here. And the Santa Claus sadly has a downside, which is that he gets to draw. He begins with Stake Your Soul, Your Nose is Mine, and summons the Razin from deck. At which point I realize I'm probably screwed. So I can't stop him from doing his thing, but he then reveals Jalong to then use his effect to summon himself, then Lupus to summon from the graveyard. They can overlay to Ripper, get themselves another Izuna. Then just add it back to hand, and then now they're on several points of interruption versus my 2 cards in hand. I draw that one, so I just say, wait, fuck it, might as well go for it, and it gets negated, so I decide to surrender. Good game. Now with a third game. Pretty tense, but I've got a very good hand here. Go for the tract, he goes for the Ash, that's no big deal, don't need that anyways. Life Twins, and it looks like he doesn't have anything else. As I go for Lila's effect, he has an Izuna, which I choose to contest with the Ash Blossom again. And from here he decides to surrender, and he says, I don't need to see your combo, I know I can't beat it, GG.
So, here's me again. Time for the rewind, backup. I don't speak English as my first language, so I forgot the word. Conclusion, I think. Yeah, for the conclusion of the video. What do I think of the deck now that I tested it a bunch and had a few good games and a lot of bad ones you didn't see? It's pretty good. You can very easily win going first if you don't lose to Fubalos. Nibiru and Ghost Bell, which can be annoying, aren't really in the decks anymore. And what else? Yeah, 20 hand traps were efficient. In the Dracotail game I just got 1 or 0 every time, which is very painful against good decks. But it is what it is. So obviously it could be better. If this engine could win going second with a 5-card engine hand, then this would obviously be a tier 1 deck. But it's not, because it can't. But you can make some very strong boards. I think your end boards are definitely on par, if not better than what most decks make. So it's like, if everything goes according to plan, this is definitely a top tier deck. But if the heart of the cards isn't on your side and you draw like meh hands, or the opponent has hand traps and interruptions and you need to deviate from the plan, it's just no bueno. Because then your deck is just sucky, because you need to dedicate your whole extra deck to the combo and half your deck to hand traps and then the other half to one card starters that are kind of redundant if you draw extra copies, so it's easy to draw bad hands is what I want to say. Another deck I like playing right now, which may be my next video, is kind of the opposite, where you have very few non-engine, but you just your hands are just good. They're super non-linear and you need to improvise, but you know, you can do the John Wick thing where what I can do with a normal summon at an Ash Blossom or whatever, or you can just improvise your way into just beating a board going second, which this deck can't do. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and if anyone made it this far, you're a real cool guy or girl or non-binary pal? I don't know. Gotta think of a good way to say that. Anyways, maybe I even have a green screen. Probably not though. Oh yeah. Have a nice day, remember to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.